We have Cameron Hobbs on again. How are you doing, Cameron?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Yeah, obviously we're doing these chats to keep everyone entertained during the lockdown, if you will. How you finding
it? So it's been interesting. My place of work was pretty quick to make us work from home. So I've pretty much been locked down for over 2 weeks already, in the sense that I wasn't going out. I was working from home, other than walking the dog in the morning and going to the supermarket from time to time. I wasn't doing anything. So it's been like this for a while. I was supposed to be in Poland for a stag do a couple of weeks ago, but it was at the point where all the borders were starting to shut. I had a bit of a head cold, so I thought, do you know what? It's probably not the right thing to do to go. So I decided not to go. And then ultimately, those that did go got to Poland, and then the borders got closed pretty much. So they had to get a train from Gdansk to Germany, which is about an 8-hour train. They then had to get from Berlin to Dusseldorf, and then Dusseldorf back to the UK. So a bit of an adventure for them. I'll be honest, I'm not necessarily sad I missed out on that part. I was disappointed not to be able to go because I was really looking forward to the trip. But fingers crossed we'll get to go again.
Yep, and a lot of people remember, if they've listened long enough, Cameron, obviously we've had you on before. You're obviously one of the main guys to NFL Scotland. I know you're a 49ers fan, obviously. Were you disappointed with the Super Bowl result?
Oh, absolutely. It was... I didn't grudge the Chiefs. We talked about this at the time on the podcast. If we'd been up against the Patriots or someone else that had won it recently, I would have been absolutely sick. But the Chiefs haven't won a Super Bowl in 50 years. And Patrick Mahomes, for anyone that doesn't watch NFL or doesn't know, Patrick Mahomes is one of those players that when you see him break through, you know he's going to be a star for years to come. We'll still be talking about him in 10 years, absolutely. Yep. And there's not a lot of players you can say that about in the NFL. They are few and far between. He is quality. They're an exciting team to watch. They've got a couple of ball bags on the team, so not necessarily happy for those guys to win. But ultimately, it's different. It's a new Super Bowl winner. Certainly, I've never seen the Chiefs win. I'm certainly not 50 years old, nowhere near yet. And therefore, on that side of things, fine, whatever. I also lumped on at the end of the third quarter when the Niners were ahead because I could see it coming. So I was able to get myself a new television out of that. So it's not all bad.
Yeah, Mahomes is like I watched a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs over the season because Mahomes, I had him as my quarterback in fantasy league, so yeah. To see how he was getting on, and obviously they are a good team. I was a wee bit disappointed that obviously your 49ers put out my Packers, but I don't think we were. I had a feeling we were going to go far, but I think it was just one hurdle too many when I watched the game against 49ers.
Huge progress for the Packers, though. Under a new head coach for the first time in a long time, they showed that they were capable. It still feels like Aaron Rodgers doesn't have a lot of receivers out there, so that's something that they'll try and improve on. I think that the challenge with the Packers is always Aaron Rodgers is exactly one of those guys, like Patrick Mahomes. We'll be talking about Patrick Mahomes when he's Aaron Rodgers' age. Aaron Rodgers has got a couple of years left in him yet, but certainly running out of time if he's going to go on and win a second Super Bowl. So it's interesting, the dynamics. And why I love the NFL is you get players like this, like Rodgers, who's been at the same team all his career. He's won a Super Bowl, but he's spoken about as being one of the greatest of all times, potentially, certainly on play and what he's capable of, yes. When it comes down to the Super Bowl rings, which is what they really focus in on, and that's a big difference between, I think, American sports and football in Scotland. Whereas you can have great players that have never had much success. Let's take Steven Gerrard as an example. Even down south in England, he's never won a league or anything like that. But he's definitely widely thought of as one of the best English midfielders of a generation. You don't need to win things to be a huge player in this country. In America, you need to win things to be considered any kind of great. And then you get a weird situation. So you get a quarterback like Eli Manning from the Giants, who won 2 Super Bowls. Now, Eli Manning wasn't a brilliant player. Certainly, you would say Aaron Rodgers is way better, but because Eli's got 2 rings, he's immediately in some conversations considered higher or greater in the conversation than Aaron Rodgers is. So a really interesting time. But if the Packers want to win another ring for Aaron Rodgers, they got to do it in the next year or two, I think. After that, he gets into that danger zone of starting to slip into being too old.
Yeah, and the game's changed a wee bit for the Packers because obviously they're relying on a wee bit of the run game, like people like Aaron Jones and stuff, which is good to see. It's a bit of a different dynamic, but I agree, and it really, really hurts my head to think that Eli Manning's regarded better than Aaron Rodgers. That hurts me, mate. That really does.
Anyone that knows the game doesn't consider it, but it's just when you look at the numbers, you think about it. Joe Flacco has got the same amount of Super Bowl rings as Aaron Rodgers does, and that Andrew Brees, that for me is just mind blowing, absolutely mind blowing. So the numbers can lie. I think it's Eb Skovdahl said something about statistics. I won't re-quote that. If you've never heard it, go and look it up. It's a funny quote. But yeah, it's a great game, the NFL, and I'm sad it's over. It's not suffered in the sense that there would be no games right now. So therefore, this is the off-season, and therefore it's one of the few sports that hasn't been massively impacted by COVID-19 yet. There's things going on at the moment, free agency, which is the equivalent of the sort of free transfer or the transfer window in our football. And then the draft's coming up, which is basically the guys coming out of college and the teams all get to pick. The dynamic of that has changed, but it's still happening. There's players still signing contracts, they're just doing it remotely. What it means is the teams can't get the physical element done. So there's no physicals being done. And therefore, everything's got a little asterisk next to it at the moment. But they're still ploughing on. And it's been great from an NFL point of view because over the last couple of weeks, we've still had loads of content to talk about. Big things like Tom Brady leaving the New England Patriots, going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to end his career in Florida like pretty much everyone else in America. And it's storylines like that have continued to give us content and given us something to talk about, which is brilliant when there's not a lot of sport going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously Tom Brady, we were talking about Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. We kind of have to give Tom Brady credit. Was it six Super Bowls he won? Am I right in saying that? Is it six? Yeah. That's crazy numbers. And the Pat, we've talked about the Pat in the past, mate. They were just. I think I compared them to the New York Yankees in baseball before, which I probably got a bit of slack for. But yeah, the empire, if you will.
What he achieved is exceptional. I'm not sure anyone will ever better it. But it's funny, it's a conversation whereas if you watch some of the other quarterbacks, there's arguments to say there's been better in the business than Brady. But Brady's won so much, then that's where the statistic of being the champion so many times almost immediately puts you in that category where no one can touch you. Personally, I enjoy watching Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees more. I think they're more entertaining quarterbacks. I think that they've got more in their sort of list of capabilities than Brady does. I think Brady's benefited from being around the best coach by far, and he's always had a lot of good pieces without being surrounded by stars with egos or anything like that. They've achieved so much, and because they've done that, he will be considered the greatest of all time. There'll be some people will look no further purely because he's got those 6 rings. But this is the great thing about sport, isn't it? You can debate anything if there's a debate to be had.
Yeah, definitely. What have you been doing to sort of keep yourself busy? Have you been watching documentaries and stuff like that, or what sort of things have you been doing just keeping yourself busy?
So I think listening to podcasts is great, and there's so much content going out at the moment. Loads of people have time, and it's been great. It's great to come on with you guys and have a chat. It's great for us that we're still getting to do podcasts. There's still things happening, there's still things going on. There's plenty to talk about. Of course, on Netflix, utilising Sky, Disney Plus has been subscribed to. Let's get that plethora of channels in. Obviously, everyone's internet's taking an absolute hammering at the moment, but where would we be without it? So catching up on all these TV series that I'd fallen behind on, that's great. But for me as well, it's even spending times on the debate. Although sport's not happening, let's take Scotland as an example. We've got this weird debate at the moment around what we're going to do with the leagues.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see what we're going to do. Now, sort of the breaking news today is that the English levels below the national leagues have nullified all of their seasons. So what they've said is those games are void. They didn't happen. There will be no promotion or relegation. And I think already some of the teams that had already secured promotion are saying, oh no, hang on a minute, we're not having that. And that's some of the fallout that we can sort of start to anticipate in Scotland. We've already seen the Highland League have called their league. They've finished it, and they've put the champions forward. It's a really interesting thing. I think Fraserburgh were in second place, decided not to challenge it, so they were obviously willing to do it. And the Highland League are in this position where they can put somebody forward as their champion for the season. That's really, it's an interesting stance to take. It's one that they feel that is the most comfortable thing to do, and that's absolutely fine. It'll be interesting to see if the Lowland League does something similar. That's where I think it becomes interesting. Brora Rangers go into that position as champions. They were well clear. Well, fine. It was pretty much a sure thing, other than the potential that Fraserburgh might have had an outside chance to do it. In the Lowland League, it's a little bit tighter. And actually, it's interesting to see where people fall down on this. Because do you finish your season and do you put your champions forward for promotion? Does it end up in a weird situation where Kelty get announced champions, but actually the decision is, well, we're not going to relegate anybody because that's not fair on anybody in League Two, that we're still battling for survival. But then it's not maybe fair for anybody that's in the Highland or Lowland League. And I mean, look at the situation that Kelty are in. They've brought in a plethora of players that are too good for this level. There's no two ways about it, right? Too good for this level. They absolutely should have been winning that league. Of course they should be. And then you've got a situation where Barry Ferguson, as the big Rangers fan that he is, you only need to pick up a paper to find out his latest thoughts on Rangers. I'm sure he's caught in two places, because for the team he manages, he'll want the league to be done, let's be champions. But for the team he supports, he'll be hoping that isn't the case. At least have a fight chance of that one. So what would someone think of Barry Ferguson and all this? For goodness sake, the poor man's going to be torn. So, interesting conversations like that need to take place. And it's no matter what happens, someone's going to be unhappy in this. I think that if we do get to the point and we are made to finish the season, we're not going to be finishing the season in a normal sort of May, even June time. Let's be honest. It doesn't look like that's likely to happen. So what we're then getting into is extending the season into goodness only knows when. And I think that's a really hard thing to try and decide now, because we just don't know what's coming. So it's interesting to see the debate. I think there's loads of stuff you can look into. There's the absolute nonsense of people trying to interpret the rules and say, oh, well, this, but that. I don't think anybody knows. I think this is a unique set of circumstances that everybody needs to sit down at some point when they can. Maybe they do it via Skype, and they figure out, right, what are the ways forward? What are the ways forward, and what's the path of least resistance? What's the solution that's going to piss off the least amount of people and remains fair to all involved? I don't think you're going to hit 100% fairness. So what you need to look at is what is the minimum amount of impact that we can do. Personally, I would anticipate, if it was me and it was a guessing game, I think the Lowland League will call the season. They'll call it as it is. I don't think we'll see any promotion or relegation from the Pyramid into League Two this year. I think that the SPFL will fight against that, and they will look to retain the teams that they've got, because they'll feel it unfair to relegate a team based on how things are sitting at the moment. It's a really interesting one as well, because you look at the League Two table at the moment, and Brecon are, rooted to the bottom there.
Yeah, definitely.
Albion Rovers form of late. Well, not of late. They're unbeaten in a while, but before that, they'd lost every single game. Everyone's unbeaten in a while. But there's that situation where Brecon City will be going, oh, absolutely brilliant. Let's hope that we just call this. We'll take bottom, but let's just not have relegation. Let's have a
it's mental to think about. I actually tweeted something out just before we came on, Cameron. I said, crazy to think if this happens in the Lowland League, all we got from the season was Cali Braves in their soulless cage. I mean, obviously it's a joke, but it was a Berwick fan, funny enough, that came up with the soulless cage. I actually love my Lions Park. I get on well with Cali Braves. I do criticise them sometimes, but it's true though. All we would have for this season, if everything was expunged, was the fact that Sport changed into the Cali Braves, and we got Alliance Park, aka the Soulless Cage. Nothing else matters. That's a shame on the players, though, especially like Kelly. I mean, I know your thoughts and stuff. You obviously explained them, but in fairness, they were the better team. They recently beat Bonnyrigg. To throw it away, through no fault of their own, would it not be a wee bit harsh on them?
It would be harsh, but I mean, if you're looking at the statistic, and again, the Highland League was slightly different. So where are we at?
Yeah.
They played 25 out of a 30-game season. So there's 5 games to go, if my maths is correct. 5 games to go, and Bonnyrigg have a game in hand, are 6 points behind. Behind. So that, let's say it's 3. Let's give Bonnyrigg Rose the benefit of the doubt, and let's say it's a 3-point difference. That's 1 defeat to swing it. Now, obviously, the goal difference is ridiculous, but all it takes is then a couple of draws. So 2 draws in the last 5 games. Bonnyrigg Rose win out. Bonnyrigg Rose would be the winners, and I think that's the argument that they would put forward on that one. So I think that it's if it results that Kelty win the league, because we can't finish it, and that's the case. I think the bit that's more interesting to Kelty, to be honest, winning the league's great. They're playing for promotion. They've not. Now, I'm not going to speculate as to how much money they've put into this, because there'll be a bunch of people come out and go, "Oh, they haven't spent anything. What do you know about the finances?" Like, happens to every team. Every team. When I was at Spartans, the same thing used to happen. "Oh, Spartans have spent a fortune." It's like, what does anybody know about anything here? We're all speculating. So, based on the sum of the parts, you've got to think, and the amount of people that have come in, Kelty have definitely greased the wheels of a few people to encourage them to come down to the Lowland League. That is on the basis that they want to take that team forward and into the leagues. It's a great setup. They're a massive team with huge potential. I understand why they're doing it. But that's where it becomes difficult for them. If you get into that position where they win the league, but they don't get out the league, will they have the things in place, given the lack of income that's happening at the moment, to be able to continue to do the same thing next season? And that's where it becomes really harsh for them. They have played their trump card here, and for them, they'll be hoping it doesn't all sort of just result in nothing at the end of it, which could still happen, let's be honest. They could get into the playoffs, play Brora and lose. So, it's no sure thing on that side either.
Yeah, absolutely no. And I think, in fairness, I did ask Nathan Austin this when I spoke to him, but the majority of the players like Nathan Austin are actually signed on for next season. But in terms of, you mentioned it there, I don't know money-wise what's involved. I'm never one to ask, but obviously if you're bringing in players like Michael Tidser, I'm going to deny that he's probably on a wee bit of money, but they're smart. They're smart. They're smart at Kelty as well. I mean, Dean's very shrewd with his business and his dealing. So, but yeah, to be honest, I know probably some people won't, think I know more about it, but I don't. I've never asked Dean. I've never asked how much people are on, because it's just not my way. But I'm not dumb. Yeah, of course they have spent money.
It's not a problem. There's no issue with anybody spending money. If you've got the money to spend, brilliant, crack on. If you could put together a great football team and entertain your fans, brilliant. And at the level that we're at, if a team's got the ability to do that, they will go far. Absolutely. And do you know what? They're playing for a place in the national leagues. That's why they were the first of the junior teams to make the move into the Lowland League. They showed a level of ambition before every single other junior team. And absolutely, I applauded them for it then, and I applaud them for it now. They've got a very clear goal, and they're driving to get it done. It will be really, really harsh if they don't get the opportunity to win out the season and play in the playoffs to try and win promotion. And it's the factors like that, though, that need to be considered, because how is it then fair to a team like Brecon as well at the other side, who haven't had the chance to finish their season, and then suddenly they're in a relegation thing? Now, you can say anything that you want to say. It's the same about Hearts at the top level. Fine. They've all played the same amount of games. They've had the same amount of points on the record. I know myself as an Aberdeen fan, above everything else. There was the season where we were bottom of the league and absolutely getting relegated, and then managed to win out just enough to finish second bottom. I think it's 93-94 season. And then get done firmly in the playoffs when it was the first year of the playoffs and beat them 6-2 in aggregate, and we stayed. And to this day, Aberdeen remain one of only 2 teams in Scotland never to have been relegated. Although that's a controversial one, depending on what you think of the Rangers situation. But still, definitely at the moment, Aberdeen and Celtic have the longest uninterrupted run in the top division of Scottish football, and it's an impressive record. So what my point there is, like, if you're going to play a season, it goes down to every single game. A season isn't played in 17 out of 36 games. It's not played in 25 out of 36 games. It's played in 36 out of 36 games. So you want to complete the season, you either find a way to finish those fixtures, you find a way to fairly end it with everybody's input, or you end up null and voiding it. And no matter what you do, you're going to piss somebody off. Don't envy the people in charge of making this decision.
Yeah, I've been saying that all the last couple of days, mate. Obviously, we know that you were involved in Spartans. I know you're not. You're a wee bit busier with other things these days, but Spartans, a tough season for them. Obviously, a lot of change going on, but they seem to be on a wee bit of a better roll before all this happened.
Yeah, and I think it was a tough season. There's been, again, you look at the calibre of the competition, and you look at the teams sitting above Spartans just now. So you've got Kelty, Bonnyrigg, East Stirling, and BSC Glasgow. So BSC are another team that have, and when I say they've spent on their team, it's not disrespectful, it's not me criticising. They've got the capability to attract quality players, is probably the way to put it, that makes the most amount of sense. You look at a team like East Kilbride and how far they've fallen down. You know, it just shows you that it's really hard to maintain that level of success over a long period of time without investing in the team. Now, from my experience with Spartans, it's always been the case that they've looked at what they spend, and it's always been kept within the realms of what's realistic. They've never overspent to chase something down, and it's something that is both good and bad, in the sense that it's great because you know that what you've got there is a really strong, consistent team that shouldn't hit money troubles. But sometimes when there's other people come along and are able to attract better players, you play second fiddle to that. So, you look at the teams above, and it's, well, to be fair, actually, you look at the Stirlingshire one, and they've got an extra game played, they're 4 points ahead. So it's pretty close between the two. And actually, that's a rivalry that's been ongoing for a number of years between the two clubs.
Yep. Yeah,
we're not going to that old chestnut.
I never knew about that until very recently. I knew that the matches between the two were often quite heated. Well, not heated as such, but certainly there were battles.
Feisty.
But yeah. I did hear what Spartans done to East Stirlingshire. Let's say off the pitch. I'm not going to it, but I was like, yeah, I get why there might be a bit of hostility towards them.
And it's funny enough because and I don't know if we've talked about this on the pod before, but very randomly, when I was young, I got into East of Scotland football by watching People's Rovers.
Yep.
So I got into that when I was about 15 years old. I'm now 38, so we're talking a long time ago. The way back then, I always championed that there would be promotion from the East of Scotland League and move up the way. And what it used to frustrate me was that there would be teams would repeatedly finish bottom of the old third division and nothing would happen to them. So actually, the sort of Spartans East Stirlingshire thing started before I was involved. But at the same time, I agreed with it before I was involved with Spartans, because I was like, it wasn't about having a go at East Stirling. It was about having a go at the situation where a team could repeatedly finish outright bottom of the league and nothing happened. There was no relegation. There was other teams. I remember back then it was Huntly were the team of the Highland League that were sort of the team that kept winning it. And it was always a case that I was like, Huntly and some of these other teams should have been in. You know, Whitehill Welfare went through a stage where absolutely they would have been an asset to the Football League. Find the facilities and stuff like that would have been great, but allowing them into the Football League might have given them the ability to get the finances in to improve their situation. And you look at the situation that Whitehill are in now, where they've fallen out of the Lowland League, and who knows when we'll next see them, because the East of Scotland League is now filled with absolutely massive non-league sides. So this Lowland League is going to be thrilling over the next couple of years. It's going to be such a tight division with some really big, high potential teams just waiting for their chance. which is something that I've always thought was going to be the case. It seems to be proven to be, and I can't wait to watch it over the next couple of years. I genuinely think it's a super exciting league filled with quality teams that really add something to Scottish football.
Yeah, completely agree, mate. And just on the East Stirlingshire Spartans rivalry, if you will, what were you a wee bit hurt that Jamie Dishington left to go to East Stirlingshire? I've spoke to Dish, and obviously, he got a lot of stick, and some things were said via social media that were later deleted. Snake icons and snake emojis and
make no mistake, he's a snake. It's an absolute snake. Snake Dishington, as he's known now. Snakington, Jamie Snakington. That's it. No, do you know what? It's one of those things. I was gutted. I think he's a quality player, a really top guy. For me, what I always liked about Spartans was there was a certain they had a certain ethos around the sort of people that they wanted, not just the sorts of players. And Jamie was a top guy, a really nice guy. So I was sad to see him go on that basis. He wanted to go and try something different, play somewhere new, totally fine. Do I think he made the right decision? Personally, no. I think he was better where he was. I think he could have helped contribute to more success at Spartans, because I don't think that East Stirlingshire are any bigger or greater. They don't have their own stadium for a start. Whereas our stadium's so good, we've got league teams coming to borrow ours. The Spartans is where it's at. Come on. But listen, I understand these things happen in football. I hope he left on amicable terms. And if he's anything like any of the other Spartans that have been around the place, we'll see him back at Ainsley Park in a Spartans kit at some point in the future, because that tends to happen. The good guys keep coming back. And certainly he's a guy I would have back at Spartans anytime, for sure.
Yeah, I said to Dish, obviously, I had to ask him the hard questions. You know me, Cameron, I'm not shy away. So I did ask him about that when I spoke to him. And as far as I know, everything was amicable. I think there was obviously, some talk about the fee. I think it went to a tribunal, and obviously Spartans would have been happy with the fee that they got. But yeah, Spartans, the academy they have there, there's still guys, some young guys there that are fantastic. The team's it's not done great this season, but the team that they have there, Aaron Scott, some of the younger guys like Blair Atkinson, Nicky Reid's really been impressive, and they're still a team to watch out for. I think it just took them a wee bit longer to gel a wee bit this season after losing the likes of Gary Chen and Mikey Herd and obviously Jamie Dishington.
Yeah, and it's something that I've seen over the years with Spartans, but something that Spartans have always been good at, and something that when Edinburgh City won the Lowland League, where they were really good is they managed to have a core of quality players, but they kept them. They kept that team together. And honestly, there's so much value for me to be had in being able to have a good team, but retaining that team and not continually changing out the pieces. It's a hard thing is to build that sort of that natural repertoire with the player playing next to you, just knowing how a certain guy's going to think, where he's going to be, the sorts of runs that he's going to make. And it's something that you tend to see with clubs that make mass changes at any transfer window, is they tend to struggle a little bit afterwards, because these players have got to rebuild the relationships again. So hopefully, this is a situation that Spartans can have a group of players together, keep them, retain them, get a good conveyor belt of guys coming out of the youth system and continue to grow. And that's a solid system. How long will it be to progress from the Lowland League? It might be 2 years, it might be 10 years. As long as they continue to stand for what they stand for, I think Spartans will be a club that will be desirable for players to go and play there. And that's worth its weight in gold, to be honest. Yeah,
and that was the final thing I was going to ask you, but you pretty much answered it. Obviously, likes of the former East Juniors coming in, we're now going to have a West of Scotland. Do you fear a wee bit about Spartans' position as, once, I think they're still in fairness, I shouldn't say once, because they are still one of the bigger teams in the Lowland League, but do you think it's fading a wee bit with the likes of Kelty, Bonnyrigg, all these former East Juniors coming in, and potentially West Juniors in the future, like teams like Auchinleck, Talbot? Do you think Spartans and maybe even the likes of East Kilbride will suffer a wee bit?
It certainly makes it a challenge. Do you know what? There's no two ways about that. It definitely makes it a challenge. It's an interesting time, for sure. There's some massive clubs in there. But you look at the league, and you look at someone like, again, East Kilbride, and how dominant they were in the Lowland League. And it was Spartans and East Kilbride that were fighting it out for a couple of years. We've seen Edinburgh City go up and be a success. We've seen Cove Rangers go up and be a success. I think that it's not just worrying about what's coming from below. There's also an element of worrying about what's coming down from above. Yeah. Because as these big teams do go up, the teams that are coming down to take their place. Now, a situation like Brechin, I'm not sure where Brechin land. Do they go Highland or Lowland League? I don't know what the setup would be there. I don't know if that's been decided yet, I'll be perfectly honest. But Albion Rovers, for example, if it was them, or Stirling Albion, or one of these teams, Stranraer, Stenhousemuir, these are big clubs that have got big followings, and they would be able to attract good players. So you get into that system where it is an extra layer of the team sort of moving up and down all the time. What I think we will end up with, and I think it might take another 4 or 5 years, is I think you will end up with a Lowland League setup where actually every single team is going to be very capable of beating every other team. Perhaps doesn't feel like that, but I don't think in 4 or 5 years you'll see you'll see as many teams with as few victories as we've got at the moment. So you're looking at the bottom 4, and you've got 2 wins for Gretna, 2 wins for Edinburgh Uni, 3 for Dalbeattie Star, 2 for Vale of Leven. That's a very clear bottom 4. Again, look at Berwick Rangers, how much they've struggled since they've come down. But I don't think that's something we'll continue to see. I think that you'll start to see it get much tighter, much closer. I think there'll be bigger games. I think there'll be bigger attendances. I think it'll be a thrilling league. I really do. I was a massive fan. I was delighted when it came. Massive fan, massive champion of the cause. I think it's proven to be absolutely the right thing. I think that the creation of the West of Scotland League has shown that junior football has had its time. It had the opportunity to change. It laughed in the face of change, and change is now laughing back. And that's basically the best way that I can sum that up. We're moving on. We're taking big steps forward, and junior football will look back on itself and go, we had our chance to do it our way, and we went, nah. And ultimately, they've suffered because of that. So it's a shame. I'm not celebrating the death of junior football, but I was involved in conversations that they had the opportunity to do something about it, and they absolutely made a conscious choice not to do it. So football has moved on. Football's got better. We've got this amazing Highland League that we've had for years. We've got this great Lowland League, and now we've got these leagues sitting underneath it. It's a great time for Scottish non-league football. It's exciting. So many great games, so many great teams, and no matter what happens, we've got great football to look forward to, and that is all that matters.
Absolutely, Cameron, and I've heard things about where Brechin would be going. I won't say too much because I don't think it's going to happen anyway, but and there's a lot going on with the Highland League as well. I believe the Caledonian leagues might perhaps be under them, from what I've heard. Again, I can't say too much if that's going to be the case. But insider knowledge, Cameron, you have to be careful what you say. So,
absolutely.
So, sometimes you forget, obviously, because you've been told something like, did people know that? And then you say something, and then you're like, oh, crap, maybe I shouldn't have said it. But at the moment, I think it's all up in the air anyway. So, we don't know what's going to happen anyway. So it's just words at the moment. But from what I've heard, there's going to be change anyway, and we'll just have to wait and see what's going to happen with the leagues. I really appreciate you coming on, Cameron. It's always interesting having you on, talking about NFL, and obviously very passionate about Spartans, as people will know. And the chat's been great, mate. And as I said, I'm really happy that you're on, and you're welcome anytime. And I'll let you do a plug for your podcast also, mate.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Always a pleasure to come on and rant about football is what I tend to do. But yeah, if you're an NFL fan, you want to hear about things about the NFL, but from a Scottish point of view, check out NFL Scotland podcast. It's myself, Paul Mitchell of BBC Scotland. We've got a great team of guys involved. We've got Jamie Borthwick from STV, Charles Patterson from Sky Sports News. We've got Ian Stephen, who is a freelance journalist who's covered sport in Scotland for years. And we've got Gordon McGuinness, who is the social media manager and has been senior analyst at PFF If you don't know who PFF are, they are massive in America. So, it's a really good group of guys. We try and talk about American football, but like I say, do it in that Scottish way. We give away, when the season's on, our weekly awards. We give out our ball bag award, our Bowfin award, and our Better of the Week. That's what we're all about. So if you're a fan, come and listen. We'd love to have you over there as well.
I don't think we would get away with that sort of thing. We'd have players. I think that's brilliant. No, as I said, I think I've said this to you before, Cameron. I don't tend to listen to loads of podcasts. It's the sort of thing I would do when I'm going out for a walk or maybe travelling or something. But struggling a wee bit in the house. But I know people do appreciate podcasts at this time. This is exactly why we're having these sort of chats. And it's as I said, it's great having you on. And hopefully we'll beat this isolation, and hopefully there'll be football back soon.
Absolutely, totally agree.
Keep safe, pal, and I'll talk to you soon, mate.
Brilliant. Cheers.